Well, hi, Dave.
David, I just joined this today.
They're all in the parking lot.
After you're all in the parking lot. Thanks, bye.
I am oddly enough the first one here.
Oddly enough, indeed. How are you?
Hang in there, you.
Hanging in there. I have no intention of not doing so at the moment. Carol's out there too?
Yeah, she pulled in just as I was coming down the door. Shelley was getting her junk together, and
Ah, okay. Carol wasn't sure she was gonna make it, so,
I think it's Carol. Saw her white car coming up to the wall.
yeah,
I guess she decided to make it.
probably is. How are you?
Pretty good. Just no major complaints.
Well, that's good. You've recovered from your family visit.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Hello. I didn't know if you were coming. You're never this late, Shell.
It took me longer to get out of my room today.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had to stop with construction there.
Oh, you didn't go around, huh?
Well, I didn't know there was, on Clark Hill.
Oh,
They're cutting trees everywhere. I think.
yeah.
I had to stop twice today for tree cutters.
I backed in next to Rick and I said, isn't it for Carol? What if she comes? I
And
said,
she did.
and she did. Cool.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
You keep your sunglasses today.
Oh, you know what? I keep, these are prescription glasses, so I don't think about it when I have them on.
Oh, okay.
It happens at the pantry all the time. And sometimes people say, and I'll say, why is it so dark in here? I go to turn on a light. And I realize that that's not the problem.
Oh,
Oh, it's so much brighter in here now.
son of a gun.
Yeah. Oh, brother,
You're here.
I'm here. Big day today.
Big day?
Yeah, it's our anniversary.
Oh,
Craig
the
wanted,
anniversary.
wanted to go out. Just, no, we'll go to the Black Sheep. No, yeah, and then we'll go to the book barn. A big trip, you know, big anniversary, excited. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I said, well, I do have class Monday night. I said, well, he said, what about Tuesday? I said, well, I said, we're getting a big delivery at the pantry and that's my job. I said, what about Wednesday? He says, no. Transfer station day. Craig doesn't like to do more than one thing on a day now that he's retired, you know?
I see. Okay.
I said, well, can't be Thursday, because I'm at the pantry. I said, that leaves Friday. Or we go to dinner. The rest of the week was going to be yucky. This will be a better day for eating outside.
Yeah.
And I still haven't come up with the time to get together with my sisters. We have not been together since last February, 2020.
Really?
I've seen all of them individually, but other than on Zoom,
Ooh.
so I've been trying to do it and organize something. And because last year would have been my year to pick the sister's birthday event. Well, we didn't do anything last year. Didn't do it this year. I said to my sisters, let's just go to dinner sometime. We can go someplace, eat outside, And my sister, youngest sister asked if it could be done before the 26th of August, because that's when she goes back to school. The weather, like, we were gonna do it last Friday or Saturday, but the weather was just so crappy.
Yeah.
If there's a chance of thunderstorms, you don't want to be eating out on a patio someplace
Why not?
under an umbrella or a tree. Oh, yeah. So I don't know if that's gonna happen this week. Hey,
Hey,
I didn't use the bathroom.
go right ahead. Well, our, my brother-in-law, Wes, restaurant in Washington,
Mhm.
the storm came through there a few days ago and took all his outdoor eating tents and ripped them up and sent them off into the whatever.
Potomac, Chesapeake.
So he's, so he had to go out and get new
Yeah.
tents. I mean,
There was somebody in Connecticut who had sort of a great big tent area restaurant or whatever. And one of those bad storms that came through, just, they had a picture of the lady and the devastation. It was like, holy cow.
How's California, by the way?
I didn't go. We didn't go.
Oh,
We, we chickened out, as it were.
yeah.
We said that the Delta variant and the rising of the Lambda variant and all that's going on, it was finished to sit for 6 hours. in front.
That's too bad.
So we didn't go. To everyone's disappointment. But sometime down the road,
Yeah.
that's where we are at the moment.
Just do what you can. I had another talk with my aunt. Oh, I don't go anywhere
Except breakfast.
every single day of the week, or lunch, and sometimes dinner. Okay, but I only go to Stop and Shop or the IGA. And then I'll say, a big Y? Oh, yeah, big one. I like their coffee cakes. I said, I don't say you should be wearing a mask in stores. I say, I've been wearing a mask in the grocery stores. I say, I'm wearing a mask now anytime I go in something. Oh, she says, I'm wearing a mask all the time. I keep it in my car and I change it out every week or two. Good, that's so helpful. I'm sure.
If the stores aren't crowded,
It's not too bad.
it's not, you don't really, yeah. Has she, is she vaccinated?
It is,
Oh, okay.
but she's not careful.
Yeah.
I-
If it's crowded, I'll put a mask on. If it's not, it's like,
I've started wearing, and we haven't started requiring masks in the pantry,
yeah.
although East Line is requiring them in municipal buildings. Talked to somebody, I said, this is one of their buildings.
Mhm.
They give us the building. We have a board meeting tonight. We'll talk about that, but I've been making the kids who are volunteering wear masks. This ain't some of the kids who are getting sick. These kids, actually, none of the kids who were volunteering with us have not, they've all been vaccinated. So that's a positive thing, but I guess some kids are getting really sick.
Yeah, well, I'm being vaccinated.
Yeah,
Even ones that's been.
A lot of kids didn't. Because at first they wouldn't let young kids get it, so they wanted to make sure they were safe. So, no,
It's still not, still not giving it under 12.
right,
I
yeah.
don't think so.
And they're just now talking about boosters for people who are immunocompromised. Another person got the Johnson and Johnson, in which case they have no idea.
Mhm.
Was listening to a doctor, they asked about that. And said, I don't know. I said to Craig, his sister, just had surgery, major surgery. You go to visit her, she went to Johnson and Johnson. probably a greater risk for than some of the others, because that isn't quite as effective as the Pfizer and Moderna. But, that's, right now, that's the least.
Mm,
COVID's the least of your problem when you have cancer.
True.
Ah,
Okay,
but we're here and we're in good shape.
Well,
I think so.
age appropriate.
Very good. Yes.
Excellent.
Indeed, and Carol's been traveling. this
Yes,
I
week.
know, we've been on the road already for a couple hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
How's mom?
Okay.
Age appropriate.
Age appropriate, but, my brother-in-law's gonna stay at her house tonight, and today she's got all kinds of nurses and people coming in. But, I'm not sure about her staying. It's mostly, basically, with his mom, she's got people coming in and out, my niece lives downstairs, but,
People have to work.
Still,
it's, yeah, and she works. It's Tuesday night will be the first night since she had her Wilson sentence. She was really glad to have me back, and I think I was just, and I got to hang out with my sister.
oh, that's cool.
Was there, and we had supper with mom. It's very cool. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Looks like he got a little bit of anxiety going
A little bit of that.
on. Questions?
I have one.
Uh-huh.
I was watching the vid last week. And I noticed, I was watching how I did step 4 and Carol. No, Shelby did step 4. And I've gone back and forth with it myself. Because you originally taught us we're up here, but we're coming down. And I noticed you come down almost all the way like this lately. Shelley's doing it the way I was initially doing it this way, and I'm somewhere like, what am I doing?
I'm actually twisting as I come down.
Mhm.
It's relatively subtle. It's not huge. So get to here, and my arms aren't coming down straight.
Mhm.
So I actually have begun that twist here,
Mhm.
and it's even though,
Mhm.
okay,
So I used to
It's
do it.
very slow, but it's,
yeah,
so it's mostly, if you just look at it.
Gotta make that turn there. quickly. I
turn
thought we
right
were
there,
coming
yeah,
down.
you're
Yeah,
like-
that's what I thought we were doing.
Me too, because I think that's how we originally
Coming here
started to
and
do it,
turn.
face down.
So it's just a little gradual.
so the elbows pull in,
Yeah,
and then you can't go straight down.
no,
No,
no, I guess what I was saying was, initially I was doing like Shelley was, and I don't know if you taught it that way, but initially we originally rotated all the way down like that. But we're not doing that.
No. You know,
I just want to know which way it worked, because I've done both.
what we're doing here now. That's the thing I will say about this training is that things change as you go along. They do not.
Yes.
We noticed.
I don't doubt that
Are we
you've
close to
noticed,
being-
I noticed.
Are we close to being stable?
I don't know, are you?
I don't know.
So the thing is that you can't come up, could come up here like this and get the elbows down. And I,
That's okay with this.
Yeah, that's not the problem.
That's not the problem. It's coming down.
That's how quickly.
We were rotating all the way down at first, and now we're not.
Well, we are, but it's just less.
We're not even getting, no, we're not going face down. at all. It just comes down, it slowly curves out, but it never does this.
no,
Okay,
Okay.
no, because the completion of that movement is here.
uh-huh.
So the twisting is continuous all the way to that point. And then in the opposite direction, this point.
So I think we've done it both ways, and
We may have, but this is, stick with this one.
that video was, I tell you, the video was killer last week. You go back and look at it, you go, Jesus.
But that's a good question. I'm glad you asked. Others?
No, I just, postures 2 and 6,
Okay.
my breathing switches and I don't realize it. You know, I'll start, exhaling out, inhaling in. And next thing I know, it's switched. And I noticed it's happening with 2 and 6. And I really, really have to focus on those two on my breathing.
Mhm.
I don't know why they switch. I don't even notice it happening until it happens.
Realize.
Yeah, wait a minute, I'm.
Part of it is,
Yeah,
part of it is that we have done both.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not, and that is intentional because eventually you should be able to do it either way. However, in, I don't know, 8, 9, or 10 months, we're gonna hit reverse breathing. And we're looking towards that. At this point.
I correct. But I just, the reminder that yes, our food use changed was good, because boy, I just don't know when it happens. I just, after a couple times, I think I know breathing, I'm not doing breathing. So maybe self-correcting.
So doing it the other way actually works more easily if you are simply expanding the abdomen. Breathe.
Mhm.
And when you get to reverse breathing, it will be easier. to be doing it this way.
I messed up on 6 too. I get, because 6
The
starts with the
transition from
exhale.
5 to 6, so. That's I'm a little jerky there.
That's a tough transition. From 5 to 6, excuse me, I'm thinking 4 to 5.
But it is.
5 to 6 isn't a tough transition. So if you're going to, excuse me, complete your twist on 5 and then go into 6. That's all it is. But you want to go all, you want to complete the movement
So
on
this,
5.
this is the inhale here, so it's bringing it up.
It's
again,
typical
bringing it
inhale
up here.
to here. And then it is exhale, and the exhale's a little bit longer because you have 3/4 of your circle to go, but it's not,
Okay, I think I wasn't bringing it all the way.
No.
yeah. I think, the thing one of the things that I, believe me, I struggle with a lot of things in this record. I'm sure none of you are.
No.
No,
Why?
I don't even know why I run the class.
The thing that I found I needed to remember, or remind myself repeatedly about in 5, is that we are not coming to here. We're only going out here. So that the bending and stretching is much smaller of the arm. Because the bending and stretching of the claw and the legs is so much smaller, or should be.
Should be, mine's getting bigger again, so I don't know what 5 and 6 are doing.
I ended up starting out big and then
Yeah, working your way back.
And that has to do with the transition from 4 to 5, is you have to condense, and that doesn't mean do this, because if you do that, then you screwed it up.
You got nowhere left to go on 5.
Right, you've got to condense it here as you're starting into it, so that you have some place to work from. So yeah, I found that a really tricky transition.
The yellow one is coming down on 6. On 2 and 5, we're rotating out. We kind of got that. The water, are we rotating in 6? What are we doing?
Yes, you are. You're coming in this way because you're drawing down the central channel to the dantian.
Okay, so we're not expanding out. It's,
You're going up this way,
yeah.
and then you're bending
Engineering.
down here and then out and up.
Okay.
2 fountains coming in. Instead of 1 fountain.
That part I got, it was just the rotation of, and the bending on coming down. It's-
I think the thing to remember is that on 6, when you get up here, the hands are coming in. And it's
But-
just
but
as if you were going
starting
into
from out
closing. This
Yeah, yeah.
movement actually is the same as our basic closing.
Yeah, 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 maybe that's what it is. It's just too damn familiar. I don't know.
Oh, well.
Yeah, therefore it must be wrong.
I maybe do the breathing wrong when I close. When I close, I'm inhaling and then exhaling, and that's the opposite one.
Yeah.
So not quite like the
Should we have on the recording? Bringing the energy.
No, because then you do bring it in. You actually are bringing it down,
Yeah,
but then it's inhale and draw it in and exhale. As you hold it. Any other?
Well, I've basically I've watched that half of it because I was using Kindle, and it seemed to get quieter and quieter. So I think I got most of the talk about emotions in it, but I'm not so sure. And I read the thing, so. So I don't know what happened in the second half and the actual movement going. So
Maybe you need to watch it on your computer.
yeah, I know.
I'll put it through a Bluetooth speaker while he's out
I
there.
don't know. Yeah, and I was. Yesterday in the earphones.
Yeah. I opened up my setup today and the camera on my computer is gone, which is often done, so I reinstalled the driver and it's not reinstalling. So I have no camera on my computer. I have the big
Oh,
camera.
are we going wrong?
I have the big camera, so it's okay. I have no idea why the driver that has worked for a year suddenly doesn't work.
Because
You're right, you got it. Okay,
Yeah, I am on the Windows 10 upgrade. That's something.
yeah. My understanding is that that's frequently the problem with almost anything. So, let us, let's just begin and do our 8 dates for fun. And then I'd like you to do 10 reps of what you have in God's. And I will admit that I watch you.
doing my practice outdoors today on the patio. Doing the 8 gates. There's some hummingbirds carrying on. At one point, you get partway through really meditative, right? And next thing you know, zing, 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 they're around my head. Like, holy crap. So much for feeling calm and meditative.
Nature.
Yeah,
This is fun.
yeah.
So before we start, it's morning, so I go up to the left. Just check it.
Which side of your body is now? Ta-da! That's a clue. Exactly. It's a don't dance.
I danced during 8 gates this morning, though.
Yeah, but not intentionally.
Oh, I thought they were gonna hit me.
You have your mind extending through your body, moving the cheese. Let me say a couple of things. One is to, it's always, this is a good place to practice things like condensing, smaller movements. Continue working with that. The other thing is to remember there's a real distinction between where we is, what he is. This is heart level. This is solar plexus, middle dome for it's clear because that is where your arms are and hands are affects where the energy is in the body. But any question there?
I didn't know there was a difference, so that was good.
So, if you do 10 reps of God's playing class. So, good. But I think you should all feel rather pleased that you can do this as well as you're doing it at the moment. Not easy practice. There are some refinements. But I think it's important to know that you are making headway. In movement one, in that preparation to begin, remember that you're twisting in. And you need to get the twist in so you have the twist out as you come up. And the extension, and then the twisting in. So the way one thing Bruce described is there are actually 7 separate steps to movement one the first time, and only 6 with each repetition. Obviously, it's clear you have the preparation that doesn't appear again. The 2 things I think to be a little careful about here is that you don't get the hands out too soon, because they go with the final part of the straightening of the legs. And when they come here, remember the fingers you have to achieve by opening the wrists and dropping the elbows, get the fingertips to point at least slightly back. Go down. So Rick, you want to open the armpit all the way up, not just when you push the fingers out.
Yeah, because I think I'm trying to get my elbows.
Absolutely. So and indeed that movement there from here is hands in, elbows in, up, out, and the armpit has been opening all the way through there. So your tendency is to get up here with the armpits still mostly closed, and then open them with a push out. Sorry. Otherwise, you're doing fine.
Maybe I'll bring my elbows a little bit later.
Perhaps. From here, you get the hands in, the elbows in. If you think about the arms continuing to rise, then the hands come in, the elbows come in, and then you're up and out. Yep. Movement 2. Remember that movement 2 is not movement 5. Movement 2, this cross in front of the dantian. I need to talk to you about that. I think I was not clear about one thing at the beginning of this, but anyway, that eventually the cross has to be down here, because then you're opening out all the way up and twisting in all the way down. Now, the thing that's really important that I obviously didn't make clear, because none of you are doing it, is you have to make the connection of the 2 Laguens points before you cross to the wrist. So it's not just go to the wrist. And that's clearly I didn't, I either never said that or I didn't make it clear.
I think initially when we learned this, we were connecting the Laguens and coming up. I think the new thing is now we're connecting the wrist, but we still have to
connect along on first.
Yeah.
So it's just sliding by, you just
Mhm.
connect. your-
Well,
if it's
you can
connect-
actually come up a little and then allow them to cross.
So as long as we're connecting by the lock on point at the end,
That's the idea. Then you twist, cross to the wrist and go on up and out. It's just that you need to feel that, and you can feel that connection there, which you don't get if you go boom. It just isn't there, and that's my fault. I didn't obviously make that clear and catch it. Otherwise, movement two looks pretty good. As I said, you do have to be careful that when doing movement two, you don't allow it to become five, which actually should be out here. But they're different. So this one is bottom to top and out, and then down to the bottom. Connect. Three looks. I was I was impressed with three. You guys are doing pretty well with three. For three was the toughest posture for me. No question.
it is.
Still,
And every day it's different.
yep. Yeah. They're all different every day. Come
Yeah,
on.
but three is, wow.
I would say the only thing that clearly is still an issue to a certain extent is getting that C curve at the top. And it's small. One of the things that helps, and I noticed that we're not always completely accurate about having the extension to each side at the same level. So one of the things that was happening to some extent was if you get too high at this point, it's real hard to go up anymore and get a C curve. So you need to make sure that you're not going too high on those side extensions. Don't forget the head has to- the neck has to extend and bend too. Actually, that's, for me, that was the real help here, was if I got this, as I went up here, now I can get that. Now I can get that C curve. Of that straight. But it's so. But you guys are all clearly working on it and on the right track, it seems to me. Four, good old four. I think the one thing I say is to work on trying to allow this twisting to extend all the way to here. And this twisting to extend all the way to here. And one of the things that's really important is when you've gotten to this point, is focus on the elbows coming in. So the elbow should immediately start working towards the ground. Would you make that circle up? Go left would be a pause here.
Always come out more. Sometimes I get too close.
Yeah,
I noticed that when you do the elbows, it gives you a little bit of movement.
yeah. And also remember that that thing that I talked about a long time ago is that 2 goes out here, 4 goes out here, 5 and 6 out here. So they work back as you go.
My 6 is big.
Yeah.
My 5 isn't.
There could be a definite difference there, that's fine. But it still should, you can think of it as 4 steps back. That's fine, it shouldn't be. 5 should not be traveling the same path as 4. And it's different, the thing I was trying to point out about 5 is notice where my arms are. I'm only been a little bit, I'm not here. And particularly as I come up, I'm not here. Because this is the extent of bend. And now as you go up, you're going out. And then you're bending. Let it go forward. So this is kind of interesting in that the circle is going like this. It's not going like this. That yeah. Because the bend of the arms needs to be smaller to work with the condensing. So no,
I don't think I'm doing that.
you are doing that. It's here and then it goes right on out.
Oh, when I'm going out, I'm starting to come in.
As you start to straighten and extend, you're coming further in.
That was the beauty of the camera last week, when we were facing the camera. And I realized what I thought I was doing.
Yeah, we don't have mirrors anymore.
Yeah.
We've had to use them for years.
But I am recording this, so you have this.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Because all we can see is you.
All you're gonna see is me.
But it was just funny last week because we were here
Yeah.
and I'm watching myself going, "Oh, right?
It's good to see yourself sometimes.
Yeah, that was back when we had the mirror, we faced the mirror, we looked at the classmates and we realized we were all doing different postures.
Yeah.
Even though they were the same name.
Six, I think the big thing I want to say about 6 is that when you start down, the hands turn in. And it can be either way. I like to turn like I do the closing, but it could be whichever way it's. And you do want to connect the long points coming down. We started with crossing the wrists, and that was intentional to stretch the body. But what we want to do now is get to the Lagong Point.
Two and six, the only two properties that are connected with the Logan Point. Let's see.
I think so, but I wouldn't want to stick to that line.
It's a good start.
If I've forgotten something. They're the,
Do,
the-
we can look at the others.
we are in those, yes, those two.
Okay, just wanna, okay. I won't say only, strike that word, and erase it, delete it.
Well, I think, also, actually, as we go into 5, the Lagong points connect, but we do deliberately go to a crossed wrist. And
Oh, Rich.
I just felt that.
Do you feel better? Oh, that's probably more than enough to tell you, but that was good.
Except for the 3/4 thing on 2, it really is some days, and 2 is out here somewhere. It really is hard some days to separate those two.
Yes, it is.
I mean, for me, the biggest difference is that 2 starts rotating out
Mhm.
way down here.
Yep.
And 5 doesn't until you get it up.
Right, and then it never goes way up here either.
But,
Five-
yeah, 5 starts right about midsection.
Yeah, 5 is, it's not, everything's turned around a little bit.
5 can go higher. There is nothing wrong with that. If if you can actually feel the energy moving all the way to the top of your head and not have anything locked up in the process, it could go higher. It doesn't have to if you can get it to the top of the head here. then that's fine.
Mhm.
A lot of that has to do with tightness in the chest, shoulders, neck. Issues you may have. We all have some issues. And so you have to respect those. And so that range of motion could vary depending on what's appropriate for you.
I find it interesting, it reminded me of one where it's constant, everything has constant rotation here.
Mhm.
There are days I lose that because I'm thinking about something else, so I'm just like carrying the arms over toward the.
It's 3 is probably the more difficult one to keep that going because it's so much smaller.
Yeah, but 3 makes sense. Actually, at least 3 is the one to practice because you got plenty of time to come around.
Yeah, you should have.
But
And you have that,
the other one's a
the
little
6
more
and 12
tighter.
points where, you're,
Yeah.
you're transitioning from them, it's well defined.
Yeah.
Whether you follow it all the time, doesn't matter, but
The other one's a little more,
nebulous.
yeah, 1 and 4 is a little more subtle. With the rotation, so, yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions in there? Good. Let's see. So, I'm going to we'll talk today about dealing with anxiety on the nervous system. So we're certainly in a period of things on many different levels, from COVID to politics to climate change and probably a couple of dozen more that are certainly creating anxiety from that standpoint. We have personal things in our lives that create anxiety beyond that. And we also have one that we often don't remember because we can't remember it, and that is what happened to you in your mother's womb. Whether it happened directly to you, or whether it happened to your mother, or whether it was happening around your mother, whether it was happening in the country your mother was living in at the time. There are just an enormous number of things, and they all have an effect on the nervous system of the fetus, of the child. We deal with those really structural effects. And if we don't do something to resolve them, if we have negative ones, then they continue to affect us, and we often don't know why. We have a moment when we react to something in a way that is strange. And we'll stop and say, why did I do that? Where did that come from? Well, there are effectively two ways a person could go about trying to dissolve or trying to relax their insides, which is why it's been effective. The actual process of dissolving is not a pure yin technique. It is what in Taoism is called a fire-water technique. Because the passive side of it is where you are aware and you let things dissolve. When you decide your mind is going to dissolve, that is a yang technique. It's a very light fire technique, but it is a fire technique. And this always has been called within Taoism Kan and Li. But in the past number of years, when people in the fire tradition talk about Kan and Li, they actually have a very different spin on what that means. So if you've ever heard those terms, it's telling you that all that means is a yin and yang technique. It's where you're working both with the fire in the body and with the water in the body simultaneously. The fire in the body, at the end of the day, is light. That's what it is. All these other things are just explanations. But at the end of the day, everybody inside of them has light. Not light that you create by visualizing it. It's in your body. It just has to be released for you to recognize it. The yin side of it ultimately is in some way going to be attached to vibration. We have two primary forces in terms of human beings and meditation and manifestation. Love masks. You've got light and you've got vibration. You could say light and sound if you want to make it more simplified, but it's not sound in the sense of it has to be sound you hear. It is that form out of which sound emerges. And the light that's inside of you is a light like, not like a light of someone shining a flashlight. It's something that's innately inside of you that would emerge if it wasn't stopped from emerging. In the fire tradition, the big thing is light. Water traditions, yin traditions, and I'm not only talking about Taoism, are always about vibration and amorphousness. This is because A true yin space, like a black hole, has no sense of any kind of boundary. Light, of its own nature, can give a sense of a boundary. Light goes out so far, and there is what is beyond that light, and that is a boundary. So think about what it means to have a powerful emotion. That which in many traditions is called a violent emotion. Depression is a violent emotion. Anger is a violent yang emotion. Frustration is a violent yang emotion. Sadness can be a violent yin emotion. Grief can be a violent yin emotion. And this violence is a question of how strong it is. It is one thing to be depressed. I feel kind of bad today. And it's another thing to be so depressed that you want to roll underneath a table and hope there's going to be a landslide so that you never have to see the light of day again. And that's what really dark depression gets like. Anger can be one thing, I'm pissed off. But it's another thing that I will tear the skin off the rhinoceros, or I will feel no compunction if I just take a knife and gut somebody and laugh the whole time. That's when anger really reaches its height. Then it goes to violence. And then there are degrees of how far it can go. So you have yin emotions and the essential nature of a yin emotion in the essential nature of the nervous system is you're going to have one of two things if you look for it. Your nervous system is going to have the feeling of collapsing, just as though it's breaking apart and collapsing. Like a vampire in the movies when somebody drives a stake through their heart, and the next thing you know, their body turns to dust. That's what it's like when your body collapses. But what it is like when what is it like when your nervous system collapses? Because you have gotten that from the time you were a child. All you have to have when you are a baby is to have your mother really give up about important things 30 or 40 times when she's pregnant. And you will watch how easily your nervous system will default to that position. When it doesn't know what to do, when you just kind of get, where am I? What am I going to do? That becomes a default position that your body will go back to, and not for a conscious reason. And to what degree? That really depends. And that's why they say, if you have one good piece of luck in this world, get good parents. At least get a good mother. Because it is going to affect you so strongly, and not at a conscious level, but in everything else. So when you get something that is collapsing, then you have the other side, that your nervous system is really going crazy. And that's anxiety. And anxiety is a yang emotion. It is not a yin emotion. If that nervous system craziness goes far enough and you get a panic attack, you go into paralysis. You even could slowly go mad. But it is just this rising, then your system collapses. Your vibrations can't maintain a steady flow. It is intermittent. And every time there's a gap, you fall into a deeper hole. Likewise, you have the opposite. When your nervous system starts speeding up and you just start freaking out, and the biggest thing you want to do is somehow lash out and go outside yourself. So you do not have to feel that thing that's going on inside you. And that's why people, when their nervous system goes crazy, just become utter and total bastards. Because that's all they want to do, is to send it outside, because they can't hold it inside without it being terribly, terribly painful. And so now we have this issue. In dear old mommy's tummy, it was a yin environment. And that is where some of these patterns, to be the way you are, were put into you before there was any conscious awareness of what's going on. So your ability to be rational, oh yes, this is happening, I should do this. Your nervous system could take over and not be rational. But likewise, if you have the ability to be rational, to actually look at what's going on inside you and say, you know, I don't think this is good, I should do something. What you do then is this. When you practice God, and there is this anxiety, you just start forgetting about the fact that your tissues are stretching and you are going in and you're going out and you're going into your body. You want to make your mind as yin as you can make it. Somehow, you've got to make your mind yin. You have to make your mind be in only utter receptivity, with no desire to have your mind go out. Because if you go out, you will easily just flip into a yang mode, and you'll notice the yang in you, but you won't notice the yin. So you want to make your nervous system get as yin as possible. And then from that yin, every motion that you make, going out and in, lengthening in and out, go into your nervous system and go out of your nervous system. You want to have the feeling of going into your nerves and going away and out from your nerves. And if you make the inside of your body very, very, very yin, and you can make that happen in your nervous system, you can begin to notice what the state of your nervous system is. This is now putting you back to where you were in your mother's stomach. This is putting you back to when you were a small child, just kind of lying around and all this stuff was going on around you all the time. And you were soaking it up like a sponge. But you may not have had any idea what it was. If it was horrible stuff going on, you may just have thought, oh, please let me sleep. Which is why kids crawl into bed and throw the covers over their head. And why they see monsters in the cupboard. So you have to get yourself back into that yin state. Then you can be, then if you can be in that very yin state, you can try and dissolve what's overly yin, what's causing this break in your nervous system. You can even try and dissolve through the gaps until it becomes smooth and you thread it. You make the nervous system become continuous. Or if it's very explosive, you can dissolve and try and just connect a thread through the spikes. Because if you get it through the spikes lower it. But the access point is by becoming extremely yin inside. This is how you get into it. So this is something which I genuinely believe that you can really, really get this together and understand this. You can teach people and you can help them in their life so much. Because the process I've just described is why so many people are so emotionally unhappy and why they do so many things that are absolutely crazy. Because they don't know they're doing it. There's an old phrase, are you better off being a catatonic or a total psychopathic psychotic? I mean, this really is a matter of point of view. Is it better to be here and miss all of life? Or are you better off just being someone who goes out and wants to get in a war and smash and destroy everything in front of them? Because both of these are responses to a nervous system input a person can't handle. And I'm really not meaning to turn this into a psychology course. But first you have to get extremely yin, because the yin is the way you're going to put yourself back into whatever was the place that maybe you messed up to begin with. The second thing is that when you get that way, you have to follow your nervous system kind of going away from you and coming into you. And that's what your nervous system does. If I look at you and I want to go towards you, my nervous system is going towards you. This is a very different thing than if I want to bring you into me, then my nervous system is going into me. When you go out towards things, your nervous system naturally goes out. And when you want to have things go into you, your nervous system naturally comes in. This is what it does. The next thing is that if it's a yin or it's a yang problem, you have to get rid of the gaps. You're aware, right? Things are starting and stopping and starting and stopping in you, because that's what's happening inside of you. You're feeling this thing, and then you go out, and then who knows what's happening inside you. Then all of a sudden, you come awake again, not having any idea what just happened, not having any idea of the effect that's happening on you. You see something that you can't handle, and you gap out again. And this is the reason why people get into all kinds of emotional things and then start going away. You really can, you literally can wave your hand right in front of their face and they will not see you because they're actually not present. They're actually in some place inside the unconscious mind. But that place inside their unconscious mind is telling their nervous system what to do. So how do you get a yin state? Now this is the $64 question. And this is something you have to find by yourself. So the first stage is this. If you want to get into doing this, you want to practice God's first. What is this softness? What is this yin? Whether you are going out or you're going in at any moment or movement. You're just getting soft and you're just being receptive to what's happening to you as you do it, with no attempt to try and change it. No attempt to try and change it. But that's how you find out what a state is. But as soon as you try and change it, now you've moved into a yang mode. And that's what occurs. The first thing is, whatever the movement is, just become receptive. And for a while, you're not even going to care if you're doing the movement that well. You are only going to be concerned with two things, that you're extremely yin, even if your hands are going out, and you're getting more yin as your hands are coming in. And you're still getting yin feelings and trying to get into that yin space. The next thing is that once you can get what the yin space is, now The next thing is that you have to really lock on and feel what your nervous system is doing as you're going out. And what is your nervous system doing as you're coming in? Is it buzzing? Are there gaps? What's going on? So you recognize what is happening, because when you have a yang move, it is most likely going to make your nervous system go yang. And a yin move coming in is most likely to make your nervous system go yin. But then you just start tracking what's going on. The next step is you now start just focusing on your nervous system. Is it clean going out? Or is it clean coming in? And then you start dissolving whatever it is you have crinkles or wrinkles, like a shirt without wrinkles. That means your nervous system is smoothly going in and going out. Every single place there is a crinkle, that is a place where your nervous system is freezing up. So then you dissolve. But if you can't get into the yin space, which is what is essentially how you were when you were imprinted, it is very, very hard for you to undo the imprinting. You could push it around and you can act, but you can't actually get rid of it. This is where in basic Taoist water traditions, when they talk about dissolving, they never talk about changing anything. Things will change. And here's the principle that that's working on. It's an old Taoist phrase, which I know I've said to you before. If you get rid of what's false, all that will remain is what is true. So if you get rid of the false, only the real will remain. If you get rid of where all these gaps are, because that's false, that's not the normal functioning of your nervous system, then your nervous system could have been trained into whatever it is that's causing these ridiculous emotions to happen inside you. And if you can begin to recognize that violent emotions are happening to you, and I don't say normal emotions, because you need emotions, they are important. You can't think properly without emotions. Emotions are what make life, like, on a human level, worth living. But when they go really berserk, that is what makes life on the human level pure hell. So if you're aware of it, understand the mechanism through which it is happening, and slowly start changing. Now, the only danger in this is that you never want to take it so far that nothing bothers you. You just want to take it to the point where these extremes go away. And as a matter of fact, that will usually turn most people into much kinder and more decent people. In a very, very small minority of people who are psychopaths, it can be turned the wrong way, because then they can do anything and never have anything bother them. This has been done all over the world in many, many situations. So you just have to make sure that what is not doing, that make sure that what it is not doing is making you numb to the emotions you have. That you simply want, simply want to do is to take off the excess condition. That's all you want to do. Remember, anything that can have a very positive effect, if done to an extreme, can also have a very negative effect. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that you should practice that immediately, but I think it's a very useful, can be a very useful tool if you want to work on it.
That's my phone.
I missed the wedding.
So,
It's funny, I'm on a wavelength with you here, because the last 2 weeks, my meditation class started up. We're talking about simple dissolving, and I can see how 2 things. One, we learn more from observation than what people tell us. And we've seen that, especially with mom and dad, but teachers also, gurus, teachers. But trying to get, I noticed the last few weeks, people have like certain, it almost comes out they have certain rules. I was traveling with 2 people, different days, and I noticed how one was getting upset about something because people should. In both cases, I realized they're not people who enforce their rules on other people. But they have the rule in their head that's making them angry. I'm thinking, and this is building a block somewhere. Now, so I've been kind of watching this stuff. How do we relax enough to sit with that and see what the hell it is and where it came from? So I've been doing that in my class. I've been thinking about inside out, outside in, because Bruce has made me think of it, and my teachings have made me think of it. So it's like, because things are not going to go back to normal. There's something we have to learn to accept and work with. That's why I like this. This is
we have
I'm
to
feeling
learn,
the same way.
we have to learn to deal.
And not just, deal in that we run over it.
Yeah,
Acceptance is not running over something or being passive to it. It's this little place in the middle.
where you can do something about it, at least in your own life.
Yeah.
It was an interesting program on NPR. It was talking about people who are following the rules. They're wearing masks, they're vaccinated fully, and they're getting frustrated and angry with people who are not, and getting sick, and they had a psychiatrist on who was talking about ways to deal with that, because you can't change it.
Mhm.
You cannot change the external, but you can change your response to that. And she talked about different things to do. So inside you can start dealing with some of these things that, you think about it, well, yeah, I guess it's none of my business, but on the other hand, it's public health. But it was a very interesting show, what they talked about. She didn't say things like meditation or dissolving or whatever, but came up with some other things. And of course, I didn't hear the whole thing because I'm in my car. And so there may have been some other things like that, but they were talking about this, and they're seeing a real rise in anxiety and discouragement in
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard so much since my guru is listening to Bruce, where this anxiety creates blocks, convergent constantly on this blockage creates disease because it blocks the flow of energy. And I haven't heard so much until I started doing some of Bruce's stuff. And Bruce's thing is blockages to disease. I mean, it's an anxiety leads to blocks. It's kind of interesting how that's all.
Well, you see that with people who are really, really stressed. And, they're the ones who, they're stressed all week at work or whatever, and come the weekend, they're sick. They're unable to do anything because their body is just, in their minds, have just collapsed.
This is pretty funny.
Yeah. Very fun with you.
Well, that's fun. I'm not going anywhere for quite a while. So, I think the schedule will be pretty regular.
Okay.
I had my break.
You're all recharged.
More or less. We
Yeah.
had some time. So,
Yeah, I got into cycles for a while, some years ago. And it's something I learned a different way in India, but with looking at the Tai Chi Tzu ball all the time, it's dynamic. I learned how dynamic it is in reality.
Mm.
And you realize, some days are just bad, but I got to the point where, well, I got into new moon, full moon, a new cycle, let's start something new. And now I'm getting to be like, I'm on the solar side where every day, yeah, that was yesterday. We're starting clear. What is today throwing at me? Can I work with it? It's like forget yesterday. Fix what you can, but it's like you're starting again. You're starting again. It's like,
Move on.
Yep.
yeah.
Constant change.
And that's what I think studying Tai Chi helped me, where Tai Chi gets into, the I Ching, all of it, the Tai Chi, the ball, everything is a dynamic. It's not, you get tight, you look at something long if you think it's stationary, but it ain't. It's just a representation of a state.
It takes a while to convince new students of that.
And every day is different, some days your practice is fabulous and some days I'm out of here.
Yeah, and you just move on and go to the next.
That acceptance part is hard to deal with what you can't change. It's even people alive.
Yeah.
And I think it hit me because about several months ago, I realized what I was doing. I'm like, well, this can't go on.
Yeah.
You can't keep cursing the darkness. It's not working.
That's right. No sense
it doesn't,
kicking your
does it?
tire if it's the person down the street
Yeah.
who's really making you angry. This is not your car. But
It's
yeah, that's
interesting.
it is. It's very.
That's because all we're going out.
And the angry that you're feeling at those guys who aren't following the rules. Well, maybe you need to look at what you think about rules.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's the violent anger. It's not as violent as I'm going to go kill them because of that. But
Well, they'll take care of
those
themselves.
are the clues that something's going on here that's not just.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the parent thing is another thing I've noticed for years in meditation. By having been raised by a single parent, things are good, things are not so good. Sometimes you pick up a lot, and it's not like they don't tell your mom that because you don't say, "Oh, so I'm open." No, it's just the way things were, and we've absorbed something. And when I moved from technical side to the management side, I could hear my mother going, "Oh, this is not this, and let me see." And I'm like, but we made the move but you had to go through, or where is this coming from? It's you pick up that energy. You don't know you've picked up a lot of energy.
On the other hand, you pick up a lot of positive.
You do. You pick up everything.
It
Yeah.
just sometimes you have to remind yourself.
Yeah, that you also got the positive.
Yeah.
Got this positive.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yep.
I'm healthy, my family's healthy. We help each other out.
Yep.
We, we come through for people. I think about with your mom and your whole family pulls
Yeah.
together
Yeah.
to make sure that you've got coverage. These are the things you do. And where did that come from? It just didn't come from the
No.
atmosphere. You were
No.
brought up that way. But you just say, okay, yeah, I do these things because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And where did it come from? It goes way back.
It's a whole gamish.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into past lives too.
Oh, yeah.
You bring all this forward, these attitudes. Mom, dad, your past life, everything shows up here now. It's all in there.
Well,
This was good.
This is good.
Thank you, David.
thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see
Good to see
you.
everybody in one place.
Yes.
Actually.
Yep, indeed.
So this is sit over here or-
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Well, this lady was shot. This lady. Well, there's a voice on here whenever you record, start or end, as you will hear.
Maybe you should sweet talk it.